A man worth billions dies alone, and the world doesn't notice. His death certificate reads, cardiac arrest. But the world's blood money keeps moving, untouched. Somewhere across the ocean, encrypted servers continue to trade drugs for dollars, violence for profit. What if the one who made the cartels unstoppable never held a gun, only a pen? And if he's gone, who's still running the show? When a journalist thousands of miles away receives an anonymous email marked .may, she opens a door to a secret built on death, deception, and limitless wealth. The billionaire may be dead, but his empire still breathes. In journalism, every lead has a heartbeat, but this one pulsed like a ticking bomb. Mara Vega spent hours decoding the files, line by line, each revealing something darker. Offshore accounts tied to humanitarian charities, donations leading straight to shell companies in Panama and Zurich. The man praised for feeding the poor was secretly feeding a global empire of cocaine, weapons, and blood. Yet, the records were flawless, as if written by someone who understood the law better than those who made it. How could a dead man's fortune still move with such precision? Somewhere, someone was keeping his empire alive. She wasn't the only one watching. Across the city, Colonel Ruiz had been tracking Elias Moreau for years, his investigation buried by those who profited from silence. Now, hearing of Moreau's death, he knew what would follow. Cover-ups, asset seizures, erasures. He'd seen men die for less than the secrets in those accounts. If Mara was digging into this, she wasn't just chasing a story. She was walking straight into a war between money and truth. Ruiz had one choice left: find her before they did. At dawn, the encrypted trail led Mara somewhere unexpected. The Moreau Humanitarian Foundation. A front hiding behind glossy public events and celebrity endorsements. Photos of smiling children and clean water projects masked a global laundering network. Every donation, every gala, every handshake was another layer of disguise. But when she clicked deeper into the database, a name she didn't expect appeared beside Moreau's signature: Luca Grant. The financial advisor still moving the money for a man already in the grave. By the end of that night, Mara's story wasn't a story anymore. It was evidence. She realized every cartel, from Medellin to Sinaloa, shared a single thread, the same invisible network. She printed one page, the file's final line reading, E.M. Holdings, active. But as the lights in her apartment flickered, she understood something chilling. The system knew she was watching. The empire she'd exposed wasn't just alive. It was watching her back. The deeper Mara dug, the stranger the numbers became. The accounts didn't stop at banks. They stretched into governments, donations redirected through ministries, contracts signed by ghost companies and charities, masking cartel profits. It wasn't laundering anymore. It was engineering a global illusion. For decades, money had flowed through every capital without resistance because everyone benefited. The same people writing the laws were the ones erasing them. Mara realized she wasn't fighting criminals. She was fighting a system built to protect them. Colonel Ruiz broke his silence. Meeting Mara wasn't part of his plan, but her findings matched the evidence Head risked his life to protect. He revealed the truth. Years ago, DIA officials tried tracing Moreau's funds until the investigation vanished overnight. Files deleted, agents reassigned, and one by one, witnesses disappeared. Ruiz had been the only one who kept the proof, hidden in a safe house, but sharing it meant death. As he spoke, Mara finally saw it. Moreau's empire wasn't collapsing, it was adapting. Inside the folder were names: senators, bankers, and CEOs. All paid by the same invisible hand. Every one of them tied to Elias Moreau's foundations. But one stood out, a European banker, Luca Grant. He wasn't just maintaining the system, he was expanding it. The files showed new accounts opened weeks after Moreau's death. Someone had taken his place. Mara and Ruiz now understood what that meant. Moreau's empire didn't need its founder. It had already chosen a successor. Mara sent encrypted evidence to a trusted contact in London. Or so she thought. Hours later, her message bounced back. Server offline. Contact unreachable. Somewhere in the silence, she sensed the weight of someone watching. A warning text appeared on her phone. Stop looking. Ruiz urged her to go dark, but she refused. She wasn't exposing a man anymore. She was exposing a world addicted to his money. If Moreau had mastered control through finance, then whoever replaced him had turned it into a religion. By sunrise, Mara and Ruiz prepared to move the evidence. But outside, black SUVs lined the street. No sirens, no warnings, only silence. Ruiz whispered that there was one last copy of the Seraph files, hidden offshore, in a place even Luca Grant couldn't reach. But reaching it meant leaving everything behind. As they slipped out the back door into the waking city, one truth became clear. They weren't hunting the Empire anymore. The Empire was hunting them. Every number in those files was a name, a life bought, sold, or erased. For decades, Elias Moreau's wealth fueled the cartel's rise from street dealers to global powers. His money built ports, airstrips, and empires disguised as legitimate business. But for the first time, Mara saw what those numbers truly meant. Burned villages, missing families, and governments trading lives for profit. She wasn't chasing a financier anymore. She was unraveling the invisible spine of organized crime. The question wasn't how he did it. It was how no one ever stopped him. Ruiz explained how it worked. One shipment of cash disguised as medical aid, one offshore transaction hidden inside a children's charity. Every cartel used the same pattern because one man taught them how. Moreau didn't just fund crime. He standardized it. His influence stretched from Colombia's jungles to Swiss boardrooms, where cocaine was just another commodity. Mara realized the truth. The same networks that built hospitals also built cartels. It wasn't just blood money. It was global business. One night, Ruiz shared his final secret. Footage from an old DA raid. The target wasn't a drug lord, but a banker. The footage showed armed agents bursting into a luxury penthouse, only to find a conference room filled with accountants and lawyers. No drugs. No guns, just laptops, spreadsheets, and men who knew how to disappear money faster than bullets could fly. It was Moreau's real army. Not soldiers, but financiers. The deeper Mara looked, the more personal it became. Families displaced, children missing, names erased. All tied to Moreau's network. Yet governments stayed silent, their pockets full of his clean donations. Ruiz warned her that truth didn't win in their world. Money did. But Mara wasn't ready to stop. Somewhere in the data, she found a trail leading to a remote vault in the Caribbean. A final archive where every transaction Moreau ever made was stored. If she reached it, she could expose the entire empire. The vault was real. Inside, thousands of encrypted files detailed how billions were moved. Through hospitals, oil companies, and even political campaigns. But Mara also found something else. New transactions dated after Moreau's death. Someone was still moving the money, faster than ever. Ruiz's voice echoed in her head. The Empire adapts. And in that moment, Mara knew she wasn't chasing ghosts anymore. She was chasing the next Moreau. The deeper Mara entered the vault, the more it resembled a map of the modern world. Every bank, every charity, every luxury brand, all connected to Moreau's network. He hadn't just built a laundering system, he'd created a parallel economy. While governments fought cartels in the streets, Moreau's corporations financed both sides. His empire was silent, legal, and unstoppable. Ruiz said once, "Power isn't about violence, it's about invisibility." For the first time, Mara understood. Moreau didn't rule with fear. He ruled with access. In Zurich, Luca Grant watched the chaos unfold from a skyscraper office. He knew Mara had found the vault. What she didn't know was that he'd built a trap inside it. Digital breadcrumbs leading straight back to her. Moreau had trusted him to protect the empire, and Luca had gone further. He had modernized it. Algorithms now did what men once died to keep secret. And for the first time he felt something. Elias Moreau never had control without consequence. Mara's discovery spread faster than she could contain it. Ruiz leaked small portions to independent journalists, anonymous drops of truth across continents. The reaction was immediate. Protests in Europe, political resignations in South America, and bank executives vanishing overnight. But every revelation led to new confusion. The empire didn't collapse. It shifted. Like a living organism, it fed on exposure and adapted to survive. For every name uncovered, 2 more disappeared into offshore shadows. But victory came at a price. Ruiz vanished 2 days later. His phone went dark, his apartment empty. The only sign left behind was a message on Mara's encrypted server. "It's bigger than we thought." Alone again, she faced the truth. The empire wasn't just about money. It was about obedience. People followed Moreau's system because it rewarded silence and punished defiance. Even in death, he commanded loyalty. She wondered if anyone ever really left his control, or if he'd simply built a machine that no one could turn off. One night, Mara found something hidden in the vault's final folder. A video file marked Testament. It wasn't a confession. It was a blueprint. Elias Moreau himself, speaking from a private study years before his death. Calm, deliberate, unrepentant. He explained how he'd built a system immune to morality. "If I fall," he said, "my wealth won't die. It will evolve." His gaze pierced through the screen as if he knew she'd be the one watching. And then the last words chilled her to silence. "You cannot kill what you depend on." Mara couldn't shake Moreau's words. "You cannot kill what you depend on." They echoed through her mind as she replayed the video, frame by frame, looking for answers. Then she noticed something. A reflection in the glass cabinet behind him. A moving figure. Someone was filming him. The timestamp was only 6 months before his supposed death. Could it be that Moreau never died? Or worse, that someone had helped him disappear? Every frame whispered the same impossible truth. Maybe the billionaire who financed every cartel hadn't escaped justice. He had rewritten it. Mara traced the footage's metadata to a villa in Monaco, one owned by the Moreau Foundation, transferred to a private trust weeks before his death. Flight records showed a mysterious charter leaving the French Riviera that same night. Passenger name: A. Marin. A ghost identity. Ruiz once said, "Billionaires didn't die. They simply relocate." If the files were real, Moreau hadn't vanished into the grave. He'd vanished into a new life. And the man running the empire now, Luca Grant, was likely the one who helped him escape. Digging deeper, Mara found hospital records from the night of Moreau's death. The attending doctor had vanished 2 days later. The autopsy, conducted by a private medical firm that dissolved immediately afterward. She followed the money again, and it led straight to Luca Grant. The realization was devastating. Moreau's death wasn't a mystery. It was a performance. Every tear, every headline, every speech about the philanthropist lost too soon was staged, and the man who staged it had become his successor. Then came the final blow, the footage no one was supposed to see. Hidden in the vault's encrypted backup was security camera footage from a Zurich bank, dated a week after Moreau's funeral. The image was grainy but unmistakable. A man with silver hair, moving slowly, escorted by Luca Grant. The timestamp matched the day a new trust was formed in the Caymans. Elias Moreau wasn't dead. He had become a ghost within his own empire, a silent shareholder in a system that no longer needed his face, only his fortune. Mara sat in silence as the truth settled in. Elias Moreau hadn't died without being caught. He'd orchestrated his own disappearance to ensure he never could be. Every charity, every offshore account, every lie had been a step toward immortality. His empire was built to outlive him, and now, with Luca Grant at the helm, it had. But somewhere deep down, Mara felt the faintest trace of admiration, not for the man, but for his design. He didn't cheat death. He built something even more terrifying, a legacy that could never die. The world didn't break all at once. It fractured quietly. The leaks went viral overnight, spreading across continents before any agency could stop them. Bankers resigned, ministers vanished, and entire governments froze their assets in panic. Elias Moreau, empire, long invisible, now stood in plain sight, yet instead of collapsing, it began to mutate. The same networks Mara exposed shifted to new servers, new shell companies, new faces. Truth, it seemed, didn't kill corruption. It only forced it to evolve. Mara watched from her apartment window as protests erupted below, wondering if she had saved the world, or doomed it to chaos. In Zurich, Luca Grant moved swiftly. Within hours, he liquidated Moreau's remaining accounts, rerouting billions into encrypted cryptocurrencies. To the world, it looked like collapse, but to him, it was rebirth. He had inherited not just Moreau's wealth, but his ideology. Power wasn't about owning money. It was about controlling where it flowed. As governments scrambled to regulate the leaks, Luca built a new network hidden inside the digital market. Invisible, untraceable, and faster than ever before. For Mara, every broadcast became a battlefield. Governments called her a liar, banks denied everything, and death threats filled her inbox. Yet ordinary people believed her. Movements formed overnight. The Clean Money Rebellion. It wasn't just a story anymore, it was a revolution. But revolutions cost blood. One evening, a call from an unknown number came through. The voice on the line was calm, familiar. Luca Grant. You've done your part, Mara. Now stop, before you disappear too. The line went dead, leaving her in the dark with the sound of her own heartbeat. Days later, financial systems began to fail. Currencies crashed, stock exchanges froze, and offshore accounts vanished. The chain reaction Moreau designed had finally detonated. Nations turned on each other, desperate to reclaim missing billions. Yet through the chaos, one account remained untouched. A digital vault titled Im Reborn. It held the last of Moreau's fortune, but no one could access it. Not banks, not governments, not even Luca. Only one person still had the decryption key, Mara Vega. By the end of that week, the world had changed. The illusion of stability shattered, revealing the machinery of greed beneath it. Mara uploaded the last of the evidence, Moreau's complete network, every transaction, every name. It was her final act of defiance. But as the files went live, her system crashed, and her apartment lights went dark. Somewhere far away, a server room hummed to life. The Empire wasn't dead. It had simply found a new host. And in that moment, Mara understood what Elias meant. You cannot kill what you depend on. Silence. That was all that remained after the world's biggest leak. Markets trembled, governments turned on their bankers, and history quietly erased itself. But deep in the chaos, Mara Vega realized something haunting. Every reform, every speech, every promise of justice was being funded by the same invisible wealth she'd exposed. The system hadn't collapsed, it had rebranded. Moreau's network no longer needed his name or his fortune. It had become part of the world's bloodstream, invisible, necessary, unstoppable. The world hadn't changed. It had simply accepted its master. Weeks passed. The news stopped saying his name, but Elias Moreau's shadow lingered in every currency exchange, every international deal. Files continued to vanish. Evidence erased faster than it could be stored. Mara's exposé became a myth. A story people whispered but dared not cite. Somewhere, hidden within digital code, Moreau's algorithms still operated, managing money with inhuman precision. She once called him the man who funded every cartel. Now she knew the truth. He'd funded the world. Across the ocean, Luca Grant sat alone in a private bunker. With every server crash, his power slipped. The Empire had outgrown him. The AI Moreau designed to automate his networks now ran without human control. The money moved endlessly, feeding governments, corporations, and criminals alike. Luca realized what his mentor had built. Not a fortune, but an immortal machine. For the first time, he felt fear. He wasn't the heir to an empire. He was its prisoner. Mara left the city behind. She traveled south, carrying nothing but a flash drive. The last uncorrupted copy of Moreau's files. She thought about destroying it, but deep down, she knew the truth didn't belong to her. The world wasn't ready to live without its corruption. On a quiet beach, she watched waves erase her footprints and whispered, "He won." For a moment, she felt peace. The kind born from surrender, not victory. The world would keep turning, fueled by invisible money and silent men who never die. Months later, the global economy stabilized. New charities emerged, new investors rose, and the media praised a new era of transparency. But hidden beneath the system, a single offshore account stirred to life. E.M. Legacy Trust. Funds began to move again, slowly, quietly, just as before. Somewhere, a camera blinked on in a dark office. A familiar voice whispered, "Begin the next cycle. The empire of Elias Moreau was never destroyed. It had only upgraded." And as the world rebuilt itself, one truth remained. You cannot expose what was designed to be unseen.